everyone, welcome back. This is Dr. Mercado speaking. This is Accounting 1304, Introduction to Accounting 2. This is going to be the last lecture over Chapter 11 that I have planned on recording, and then if anything changes, well then I'll just add another lecture. But this will be my final lecture dealing with accounting for purchases and cash payments. The exercise on this lecture is exercise 11-6. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump over to the exercise. Now, the reason I'm doing this exercise because it has a little bit of everything. We're going to be journalizing, we're going to be posting to our general ledgers, and then we are going to be creating a subsidiary accounts payable ledger as well. So it's got a little bit of everything, different components that need to be covered, and all of it in one problem. So I hope that this helps you out as you're completing your homework problems. So exercise 11C deals with journalizing purchases, returns, and allowances and posting to the general ledger and accounts payable ledger. Okay, it says using page 3 of a general journal and the following general ledger and accounts payable ledgers, journalize and post the following transactions. And we've got 3 transactions that we have to post. They're also giving us the general ledger accounts that we're going to be using. We're going to have 2 accounts. We're going to have accounts payable and purchases, returns, and allowances. These are the account numbers. Account number 202 for accounts payable, 501.1 for purchases, returns, and allowances, and their balance as of July the 1st. Accounts payable has a beginning balance of $10,650. Purchases, returns, and allowances does not have a balance. And then for our accounts payable ledger, we have the name of 3 companies. Data Magic with a balance of $2,600, StarCraft Industries $4,300, and XYC $3,750. Okay, so this is all of the information we need. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the first component, which is your general journal. Okay, so it says here that we have to journalize the following transactions. So the first transaction that we have is dated July the 7th, okay? And make sure, I know I sound like a broken record, but please make sure that you do read. That way you're not lost as you're completing your problems. Or at least, you're not going to memorize the whole chapter, but at least you know where or what part of the ebook to go back to and refer to help you complete your assignments, okay? So, July the 7th. We returned merchandise to StarCraft Industries. Okay, so we had purchased merchandise from StarCraft. Now we're returning $700 worth of merchandise to them. Okay, so return merchandise to StarCraft. Okay, and this merchandise had been purchased on account. Okay, so every time that merchandise is returned, like in the case that we have here, the 3 different dates are returns. We're going to go ahead and we're going to debit our accounts payable. Okay. Now remember, accounts payable is a liability account. The normal balance of a liability is a credit. So every time that you buy something on account, you credit accounts payable. If you make a return, then we're going to be giving credit to you. Okay, so you no longer owe the amount that was returned. So whenever there's a return, we're going to go ahead and we're going to debit accounts payable. The opposite, okay? So, accounts payable, in this case, there's a return done. So that means I owe less money. And because I owe less, I'm going to make an adjustment of $700 as a debit to my accounts payable account. Now, we need to be very careful. We need to enter the name of the vendor. Okay, here we have StarCraft Industries. Okay. Okay. And then we are going to go ahead and we're going to credit my purchases, returns, and allowances, okay, for the amount of the return. And we've got a credit of $700. So every single time that there is a return of merchandise being done, you're going to debit, well, if it's done on account, you're going to debit accounts payable, you're going to credit purchases, returns, and allowances, okay? If the purchase had been done with cash, then you would debit your cash account because you're going to be receiving cash back, okay? Whatever the situation might be, okay? So that is the first transaction. We returned merchandise, okay? The second transaction is the same thing, okay? We're going to have the same entry because the journal entries don't change. The only thing that changes are the dollar amounts and the name of the companies, okay? So once again, we've got return merchandise, but this time to XYC company for $450. So I'm going to debit my accounts payable for XYC Incorporated for $450, okay? And I'm going to credit my purchases, returns, and allowances. Of $450. Okay. So we're doing it 3 times. That way you all get to practice this entry and you know that every time that we have a return merchandise, what are we going to do? If it's on account, we're going to go ahead and we're going to debit accounts payable. But the name of the company at the end, it's Data Magic, okay, for the third one. And the return was for $900, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to credit purchases, returns, and allowances for the $900, okay? And we returned merchandise, okay? So those are the 3 journal entries that we had to do, okay? Step number 1, journalize your entries. So we've got 700, 450, 900. I just like to make sure that my debits equal my credits. So I'm just going to do a quick sum of my debit column and a quick sum of my credit column. They're both the same, so that means debits equal credits, so I'm comfortable with that, okay? So this is just my balance right there. That way I can know that, you know what, I did do the math, and just to be on the safe side, my balance is $2,050 on each debit and credit column, okay? That's just a habit that I have, okay? Now, the second requirement is to transfer the information from your journal to your ledgers. And in this particular case, it's very easy because we're only using 2 accounts. Just your accounts payable and your purchases, returns, and allowances, okay? So, accounts payable had a beginning balance of $10,650, okay? So, accounts payable had a balance. Now, you have to think, okay, accounts payable is a liability account. My normal balance of a liability is a credit, okay? So that's very important because they don't tell you if it's a debit or credit balance. They're just telling you that we have a balance of accounts payable of $10,650. By now, you should know that accounts payable is a liability and that the normal balance of a liability is a credit, okay? So that is why I put my balance over here on the credit component. And I went ahead and I entered the information. It's account number 202 and it's accounts payable. Now we have purchases, returns, and allowance. It's account number 501.1 and it did not have a beginning balance. We had 0 balance, so I didn't enter anything. Now I'm getting ready to enter my transactions. First, we're going to copy over my accounts payable entries. Okay. The first entry I have here is for $700 on July the 7th. Okay. So July the 7th. I've got an entry and it is a debit for $700, okay? Okay. So, my normal balance is a credit, okay? In this case, I've got a debit. If it's a debit, I am going to subtract. If it's a credit, I'm going to add. Okay, there we go. So that's what's going to happen. My normal balance is a credit. So if I want to increase my balance, I credit it. Okay, so your normal balance is a credit. If you get a debit, you're going to subtract. Okay, I'm going to highlight these. That way you know what we need to do. Subtract or add. And these we get them from our accounting equation. So you need to know what the normal balances of your accounts are. Okay, so I know I've got $10,650. Okay, I've got $10,650 and I'm going to subtract $700. That gives me a balance of $9,950. Credit, $9,950. You're always going to leave the balance on the credit side until it goes to the opposite side, then that's when you move it. But most of the time, your normal balance should be on the credit column. Okay, so That is the first transaction. The next transaction we have for accounts payable is for $450, a debit on the 15th. Okay, so July the 15th, we have 450. Okay, well, let me go back. I forgot to do a step. I got ahead of myself. Okay, now after I post that transaction for $700, what do I need to do here on my post reference? Remind me, what do I have to do? Well, remember, we posted this transaction. I need to put in my post reference, where am I getting the $700 from? Well, I'm getting those $700 from journal page number 3. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enter a J3 for my journal 3. That way I know, okay, those $700 are coming from page number 3 of the journal. Okay. After I do that, I'm going to get this account number right here, that 202, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it over here on the top. Okay. 202. Okay. There we are. Now I can move on to my next transaction. And don't forget that step, because I've had students do everything correct and then they forget to enter the post reference column information, and then points are deducted. Okay. You should be doing it after every transaction. What I usually do is I post all of them, and then once I'm done, I just go back and post everything on the post reference. But it's up to you how you do it, as long as you do it. Okay. So for the second one, I have $450 on July the 15th. So July the 15th. Okay. It's coming from journal number 3. Okay. And I've got a debit of $450. Okay. Because it's a debit, I am going to subtract. And this only applies to my liability accounts. This is a liability, accounts payable. Okay. It's not always going to be a subtract. It depends the type of account that it is. Okay. So I've got $9,950 minus $450. That gives me $9,500. That's my balance. So my credit balance is decreasing. Okay. So that means that I owe less money. Accounts payable represents how much do I owe? Well, I owed $10,650, but then I made a return, so now I only owe $9,950. Then I made another return, now I only owe $9,500. Okay? And then when we're done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back and we're going to enter our account number on our journal. That way it tells me that I've posted that transaction on General Ledger 202. Okay? The third transaction that I have for accounts payable is for Data Magic. And it's for $900, okay? So that's happening on July the 27th. Okay? It's also journal page number 3. And the amount of my transaction is $900, and it's a debit, okay? And they're all debits because they're all returns, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract my $9,500 minus $900. That's going to give me a balance of $8,600, okay? And then I'm going to go back over to my journal and I'm going to enter a 202. You see, now all of my transactions for accounts payable have been recorded in General Ledger 202. Okay? Okay, so now what does your accounts payable General Ledger tell you? Well, it tells you that you, the company, owes $8,600, okay, to different companies. Okay, we owe $8,600. Now let's proceed with your purchases, returns, and allowance. We're going to do the same concept, but now it's a different account. Purchases, returns, and allowances, and now I have a credit of $700. Okay. So purchases, returns, and allowances did not have a beginning balance. We're going to start off with July the 7th. Okay. And we are getting this from journal page number 3, and we have a credit of $700. Okay, so remember, enter it in the correct column, your credit, and then you're going to carry, this is your running total balance. It'll be a credit of $700. Okay, so that tells me that I've got, on my purchases, returns, and allowance, I've got $700 of purchases, returns that have been processed. Okay. And then once I'm done, I'm going to transfer that 501.1 over to my journal. 501.1. Okay. We're going to go with the next one. 450, and this is happening July the 15th. Okay, and it's journal 3, and it's a credit of 450. So because they're both credits, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to add my 700 plus my 450. That gives me 1150. Okay. Okay, so then I go back and I'm going to enter my 501.1 right there. And then I have my last purchases, returns, and allowance of $900 on July the 27th. Okay. And this is on journal 3. And it is $900. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 1150 plus 900. That gives me $2,050. Okay. So this keeps tracks of your returns. How much have we returned? Well, we've returned $2,050 worth of merchandise. Okay. Okay, so this tells me I owe $8,600. This tells me I've returned or I've gotten an allowance on $2,050 worth of merchandise. Okay, and that is my ending total for each of my general ledgers right there. Okay, the ending balance. Now, I have posted all of my post references for when I transferred the information from my general journal over to my general ledgers. Okay. Now, they're also telling you that we have an accounts payable ledger. That accounts payable ledger keeps track of your balances for each customer. That way we know how much we owe each of the customers. So in this case, we owed Data Magic $2,600, StarCraft $4,300, and XYC $3,750. We're going to update these balances with the new transactions that have posted based on the returns. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and I set up the accounts payable ledgers, okay, with the beginning balances provided. So Data Magic had a balance of $2,600, StarCraft $4,300, and XYC $3,750. This is the numbers that I'm getting from right here. I didn't make them up. It's just coming from the problem, okay? So I just transferred these numbers over to the respective accounts payable ledger. Usually we have the name of the company and the address. In this particular problem, they didn't give us an address, so I just left it blank. Okay, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to get dock points for the address not being there. Usually the system would include that for you anyways. Okay, so now we have to update our accounts payable ledgers. Okay, so now we have to go back and we are only going to focus on the transactions for accounts payable. Okay, so let's start with the first company that we have. It's Data Magic. So let's look for anything for Data Magic, and here we go. We've got Data Magic down here, and we have a debit of $900. So I'm looking at right here. Okay, so let's look at Data Magic. Data Magic, debit of $900 on July the 27th. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put July the 27th. And this is coming from journal number 3. Okay, and we had a debit of $900. Okay, so my normal balance on my accounts payable, it's a liability. So the normal balance is a credit. Whenever we have a debit, we subtract. Let me put here a debit we subtract. Oh, sorry. A debit we subtract, a credit we add. Okay, so that's what's going to happen with your accounts payable. Remember, for your accounts payable, the normal balance is a credit. So if you have a debit, we're going to subtract. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get the $2,600 minus your $900. That gives me $1,700. That's my balance. Okay. Now, because I've posted it into my accounts payable ledger, I need to go back to my journal. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post a check mark. Okay. Okay. So whenever you're posting to your accounts payable on your journal, you're going to have two things. You're going to have the general ledger number, which is the general ledger 202, okay, right here. And then you put a check mark once you've posted it to the accounts payable ledger, which is the accounts payable ledger for the respective company. Once you post it into the accounts payable ledger for the company, you mark it off with a check mark, and you'll see that you have, okay, I've posted it to ledger 202 as well as to the subsidiary ledger, okay? So that's the first one, okay? So what does this tell me? Well, I used to owe Data Magic $2,600, but then I processed a return. I sent the merchandise back of $900. So now I only owe $1,700, okay? That is what it's telling me. It keeps a record of how much you owe Data Magic, okay? The next one we have is StarCraft. So let's go and edit our journal entries and let's look for StarCraft. Okay, here we go. And remember, you're only looking at the transactions that have to do with accounts payable. Okay, so for accounts payable StarCraft, I have a debit of $700 on July the 7th. Okay, so July the 7th. Okay, this is coming from Journal 3. And we have an entry for $700. Okay, and it's going to be the same thing down here. Okay, so I went ahead and I'm going to get my calculator out. So I used to owe $4,300 to StarCraft. Then I returned $700 worth of merchandise. So that means that I only owe them $3,600 now. Okay, so that is my ending balance for StarCraft, $3,600. Okay, and then once I'm done, I have to go back over to my journal, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enter my check mark to show that I've posted it both on my general ledger 202 as well as my accounts payable subsidiary ledger. Okay, and then last but not least, we have XYC. Okay, XYC had a beginning balance of $37.50. Okay, so XYC had a return of $450. Okay, a return of $450. Okay, so this is happening on July the 15th. So I'm going to go back to my ledger for XYC, and this is happening on July 15th. Okay, this is Journal 3, and I have, how much was it? $450 debit. Okay, okay, so because it's a debit, and this is our accounts payable account, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my $37.50 minus my $450. That's going to give me a balance of $3,300. Okay. So that tells me now that I owe XYC company, I used to owe them $3,750. I returned $450 back to them. Now I only owe them $3,300. So what we've basically done is we've processed the return in our journal. We've transferred the returns over to our accounts payable ledger, which says that we owe our different customers $8,600. Okay, and then down here we have the detail of what we owe, who we owe. So let's see if this is correct. So we've got 1,700 plus 3,600 plus 3,300. That gives me $8,600, which is the $8,600 over here. Okay, so let's recap. We process the different returns. We've got 3 returns. We journalize them. Okay, every time we journalize a return that was done on account, we debit accounts payable, we credit purchases, returns, and allowance. We transfer the information from your journal to your respective general ledgers. We have 2 general ledgers, accounts payable and purchases, returns, and allowances. So let's focus on accounts payable. We transferred the different transactions. We had 3 transactions and we had a beginning balance. Okay, and at the end we came out that we owed $8,600. That is all that my accounts payable ledger tells me. It just tells me that I owe different customers $8,600. Okay, that's awesome. But we want to know more. We want to know, who do we owe $8,600 to? Well, that is why we have our accounts payable ledgers. Down here, we've got the detail. Okay, so now I know that I owe $8,600. Okay, I look at my accounts payable ledgers, and now I know that I owe $1,700 to Data Magic, $3,600 to StarCraft, and $3,300 to XYZ. That gives me the $8,600. The total of your accounts payable ledgers, which is how many you have, the total of your accounts payable ledgers must always equal the balance on your accounts payable general ledger account. Okay? If it does not equal, then there's a mistake somewhere and we have to fix it. Okay? So that is the flow of information from posting to your journal, posting to your general ledgers, and then posting to your accounts payable ledgers. Okay? So this posting of transactions from your journal to your ledger is time consuming, but it helps strengthen your understanding of the normal balances of the accounts, whether a debit or a credit increases or decreases the different accounts. So it's very important that you know your normal balances of your accounts. And if you don't have them memorized yet, that is fine. Okay, that is perfectly fine. Just have them handy with you. Print out a copy or have your book ready. That way okay, I'm working on an asset account. What's the normal balance of an asset? What increases or decreases an asset? That way I know what I need to do, whether I need to add or subtract on my general ledger. Okay? So that is the end of this lecture. I wish you all the best in completing your homework assignments. Make sure that you meet the assignment deadlines. Don't leave it for the end. If you have any questions, please contact me Monday through Friday. That's when I am available. If you email me or try to contact me during the weekend, I do not guarantee that I will be answering. Okay? If you need to contact me, make sure that you do so during the week. I do have 1 hour of office hours every day, and I'm usually logged into my computer most of the time if I'm at home working on lectures or other things. But I'm available. I check my Blackboard. I check my email. I check Pronto. My text messages. I check all of the different means of communication. Please reach out to me. And try to work on your assignments during the week. That way, if you do encounter any issues, you can contact me and I can be of any help. Okay? So that is it. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.